Good morning, everybody. We are back at Monday Morning Coaching Corner with Margaret and myself from Evolve Coaching and Rebels Compass. We wanted to continue our conversation that we started 2 weeks ago with trauma and grief, and continue today talking about breaking through those stages of grief and how to move beyond grief so that you can rediscover you and be able to restart and reclaim parts of your life and do it guilt-free. So good morning, Margaret. How are you today?
Good morning, Karen. I am great. Thank you very much. Very excited to be back chatting again.
I'm really excited to have you here. And we've had a few people that have messaged me privately and on Rebels Compass, and when we've posted these videos on how much it's actually supporting them and bringing awareness to their own level of grief and whether they are and how they're supported and whether they're supported and how they can actually support themselves. So I know you and I have discussed many times when you and I have gotten together, like off camera or in person, where we know that certain conversations are sometimes very difficult to have, but very necessary to have. As humanity, we tend to avoid painful situations. We tend to avoid conversations that you don't quite know if somebody's going to get upset with it, and you don't want to make them feel more sad, and you don't want them to be upset. So, us having this platform to be able to do this and bring some levels of awareness, I think is very powerful and important right now. And the fact that you and I discussed there's very, very different ways of grieving. It's not just the loss of a loved one. There's multiple ways of grieving.
No, there's so many different things that can contribute to the feeling of grief. I think we've mentioned before that grief is any loss or change that you experience, right? It's not just the death of a loved one. It could be the loss of a job, or you didn't get the promotion that you wanted, or you're getting a divorce, or you can't have children, or you didn't pass your exams at school, or you failed your driver's license. It could be anything that is a loss or change, sudden or even expected, right? Even things that are really happy, right? Getting married, having a baby. There's an element of grief attached to that. And when I tell people that, they're like, "What? No, it's a happy occasion." It is, but there's always a part of you that, especially if you're getting married, you're grieving that loss of being single, right? That way of life. It's now changing. So that is something you don't have anymore. When you have a baby, you become a mom for the first time or the second time or the third time, you're losing that part of who you were, especially on that first child, right? You go from being really only responsible for you to now being 100% responsible for another human being. And so your independence has somewhat changed too, right? You're no longer able to, we hear couples go, "Oh my goodness, I packed up to walk out of the house and forgot the baby was sitting in the hallway, was still needed to come," right? Like we have to get into that. And so, and even, you have your empty nest syndrome when your kids go off to school. It's really exciting that they're moving on for their lives, but you grieve the loss of them not being there anymore. So I think it's the perception of what grief is. So often the big topic is all around death, but there's so many other things, and when we don't pay attention to those, then those grief feelings don't ever get addressed, and they just end up sitting there, right? And so we've talked before, they layer up, layer up, layer up, and if we don't know to look for them and we don't know that it could be something in there, then they sit and then they build and then it comes out in other ways, right? Depression, anxiety, crying unexpectedly, could be, health issues. You could be have insomnia or sleep too much or get hives or rashes, and you really don't understand why. And sometimes it's because, it's not always because, but sometimes it's because of the buildup of the emotions that really, you might have a whole bunch of little things happen throughout your life, and then you hit your 40s and you're like, "Why am I feeling like this? Like I want to cry all the time," or, "Why is this happening to me?" And so it is interesting. I think I mentioned before I developed a grief scale that I share
Yeah.
with my clients. And if anybody really wants a copy, it's on my website. You can download it and take it. There's 30 different scenarios, and you sort of have a look and see how many you check off that have been applied. Like even if you know, emotional, physical abuse, and anything that's happened to you counts. In fact, the 30 that I have on there is definitely not exhaustive. There, I could probably do one of about 200 for people
Oh,
to, it goes on and on and
absolutely.
on. But it's interesting. I find that the tool is really great for just creating awareness for people, right? That,
Well, you don't know what you
wow,
don't know.
exactly, exactly. And I've had people come out of there saying, "Oh, I've only got 4 or 5 of these." I've had another woman that was like, "I had 29 of these." And so didn't realize how much of the grief she was still carrying. And so for me, yeah, definitely an awareness tool. And when you have the awareness, then you can do something with it, which is what you and
Absolutely.
I love to do, is to help people do things about it.
That's right, we do. And our own personal vocabularies is, I don't have time for this. I'm too busy
Mm,
for this.
mhm,
I've got little kids to take care of. I don't have time to grieve. I don't have time to look at how disappointed I am, or how sad I am, or how frustrated I am.
mhm,
I've just got to pull my sleeves up, pull my socks up, and just keep going. And it's that vocabulary that we're taught as children.
mhm,
There's people worse off than you. Just pull your
mhm,
socks up and get on with it. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, you'll get another job. Oh, your dog died, you can buy another. And
mhm,
so we tend to push these emotions down, 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 down until, like you say, something happens,
mhm,
and all of a sudden we realize that we're having temper tantrums, or we're yelling and screaming at somebody that we love dearly, or we're throwing a cup across the kitchen, or
mhm,
we're breaking down in the car when we're stuck in traffic because we're 2 minutes late to get somewhere. And
mhm,
it's these signals that the body sends that is a clear indicator that there is something deeper going on, that
mhm,
we really, really need to take care of and shine a light on, and say,
mhm,
okay, well, what is it that I'm really feeling? And people
mhm,
generally use the big one: I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm happy, and other more colorful
mhm.
words, let's say, but they
Yeah.
never go underneath what the anger is and why
Mhm,
the anger is there, and what's underneath the frustration. So going
mhm.
through these levels that you talk about, when we're going through this grief process, most people know about the 7 stages
Right.
of grief,
Mhm,
or they've heard about it.
mhm,
What are the 7 stages of grief? And the first one is shock.
mhm,
If you didn't get the job, or
mhm,
your best friend just moved to the other side of the world, and you're excited for them, but now you feel shocked because you're all of a sudden you left.
mhm.
And I know you have your own process of those levels.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of discussion, especially in the last, I think, 5 to 10 years around the different stages of grief or levels of grief. And, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is probably the most famous for the stages of grief, right? Came up with the first five, and then David Kessler added on, and she as well added on the sixth one about finding meaning, which I absolutely love. I think that adding that idea of finding meaning is important. But when I've been diving in and working with the women that I've been working with for grief, I actually came up with a different way of looking at processing grief. And it's like you start out in messy grief, right? It is messy. You are function like you're really just in survival mode, right? This is
Yeah.
when your friends come over and get you out of bed because you've been in the same pajamas for 3 days or 6 days or 2 months. And then as you start moving back out into the world, you move into functional grief. Functioning is you're out there, you're back being a mom, you're back at work, you're doing the grocery shopping, and you're trying to fit back into your life the way it was before without something. And this is really when there's something major grief wise has happened, but you're trying to function. And that's all you're doing. You're just functioning. And things don't always work that way because you're not the same person after you've experienced a deep grief event. And then there comes a point where you decide, I can't do this like this anymore. I need to make a change. I need to deal with my grief, and I need to figure out another way because I don't just want to function. And then that's when you move into more empowered grief where you take back the control. You make the decision that, okay, I need to figure this out. I'm going to work through the feelings. I'm going to figure out who I am now, especially if you were a wife and your spouse passed away, or you're a daughter and your parents have passed, or you're a mom and your child has passed. And who are you now? right? Like, how
Mhm.
do you that always affects your identity, especially, I know we talked about there's all kinds of different grief, but when you think about death, though, death will definitely change who you are. You go from being a wife to a widow, right? You don't
Mhm.
even get to maintain that wife thing the wife title anymore, right? They give you a whole new title, and it's like, well, who am I now? And what do I want to do with my life? And what opportunities are available for me? What are my struggles? What do I need to deal with? What do I really want? And so within the empowered side of grief, that's where you get to choose. And I think a lot of people who are grieving forget that they have a choice. They can choose how to move forward in their grief. And everybody's journey is unique. Everybody's journey is their own personal experience, and you have your own personal timeline. Some people can move through grief fairly quickly, just that's just them. Other people, it takes years, and that's okay too. Like, it's just honoring that for yourself, but understanding that you have that choice. You have
Mhm.
the power to choose how you deal with your grief. And some people choose not to move forward. Some people choose that they don't want, they're afraid that if they start to move forward, they're going to lose connection with the person that they lost, say. And so they stay in the grief because that's where they feel most connected.
Yeah, that's the
Not
safety.
not understanding that you can still stay connected even when you move forward. And then that's what we work on, right? We talk about
Mhm.
how do you do that. And so moving through those stages, you still go through the emotional stages, like in with the grief, you have the anger and the disappointment and the shock and the denial and the eventually to acceptance. But you also go through actual ways of being messy and functional and then empowered. And it's a process. It really is a process. But I think the really important thing to remember is you do have a choice. You do have a choice.
Absolutely.
And it's not how, and I've had people that I've been coaching that have said, I didn't cry today. Is that okay? And I was like, uh-huh. We are going to have days where you don't cry because you're so busy thinking and surviving that your body forgets that you're sad.
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's okay, because guess what? In a few days, it'll probably make up for it because you'll sit down and cry.
Yeah.
But just allowing that process to come out the way that it does, allow people to express their feelings the way that they are. Some people, when they're grieving, they're just really angry at the person who
Mhm.
left, or the fact that they didn't get the job, or they're just their grief is masked with anger.
Yeah.
And
And it's
once
that
the
level of, yeah, I agree. And it's that, it's also that level of love and connection that you have with
Mhm,
someone. You know,
mhm,
we go through so much in the process of regret, you
mhm,
know, when we're talking about losing a loved one,
yeah,
I wish I'd have said this. I wish I'd have told them how
mhm,
much I love them. I wish I'd have told them this more often. I wish we'd have got chance to do this. I wish we'd. So you go into that wishing, wanting
mhm,
energy, and that can take on a whole new life of its own.
it
And you
does.
you mentioned earlier about the label of going from a spouse to a widow.
Mhm,
And part of the process for me, I think, is a lot of the labels that we're given is is what we try and fit into.
mhm,
And without the label, if you so you mentioned going from a spouse to a widow or a widower, and now you have to fit into a label description of a
mhm,
widower. What does that look like? Well, I'm supposed to be grieving. I'm supposed to wear black. I'm supposed to be sad every day. I'm
mhm,
supposed to spend the next 2 years wearing black, and I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do that. And as you and I mentioned in the previous podcast that we did, I knew somebody that their partner had Alzheimer's, and they did all their grieving while the person was alive. And then very,
mhm,
very shortly after their partner passed, they met somebody else because they'd
mhm,
already done that process of grieving.
mhm.
So when we're given these labels, the labels sometimes make it very, very difficult because they
Uh-huh.
anchor us in to an energy that we are, quote unquote, supposed to feel.
Mhm. Oh, the society's expectations and labeling so that they can figure out who we are, right? People
Mm-hmm.
give us that label so that they can then go, "Okay, you're a widow. Okay, I need to treat you this way." And
Yeah.
so society starts to treat you that way, and that may not be yeah, you're a widow, but you're a widow who's ready to go out on the town, you're ready to go out with your friends, you're starting to date, all of these things. But if you don't do it within the expected timeline, like heaven forbid you should start dating 3 months after your spouse has passed, because everybody's going to be like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and you're right. Those labels are things that society slaps on us as a way of identifying who you are now, right? They need to make sense of who you are, but you need to make sense of who you are. And that's the hardest part, is to be your own individual person and have the strength to figure out what that looks like for yourself without being influenced so greatly by what society is expecting you to do.
Mhm.
And I think so many people get caught up on that. Well, I'd really love to do this, but there's no way my family will let me, or my kids won't understand, or anything like that. And so they hold themselves back, and that keeps them stuck in their grief too.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a number of years ago, a lady that I knew, her son very sadly drowned, passed away and drowned.
Mm,
And it was probably about 2.5 years after his passing that she and I crossed paths. And I started doing some energy work with her and working with her. And one of the things that was very powerful for her was actually screaming.
mhm,
So we got this, we were sat coaching. I was doing energy work with her. We were doing conversation back and forth. And I had another friend of mine with me who's also an energy worker. And we held space while she just screamed. All
mhm,
of the anger, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the what ifs, I should haves, I could
mhm,
haves, everything came out in that scream.
mhm,
And she screamed and screamed, and then she broke down and cried. And then after all of that took place, she completely surrendered to it
mhm,
in that moment. And it helped her go through a process of what she had been holding on to and trying to
mhm,
keep a lid on for society and other family members, because if she got sad, it made other people uncomfortable. If I say
mhm,
I'm missing my son, it makes my husband uncomfortable. If I say, I'm keeping his room a certain way because I need to for now, for me to be able to process my grief, it makes his brother uncomfortable. So everything became about what everybody else needed
mhm.
and not about what she needed to be able to process her own grief. And I find a lot of people are like that.
Mhm,
They do for everybody else how to make it comfortable for everybody else as they go through maybe their grief, or they don't know what to say, or they just
mhm,
want you to get over it. And you never actually get an opportunity to process what it is you actually feel and allow yourself to feel. And one of the biggest things going through any emotion is to feel it,
mhm.
and we avoid it. As
100%.
humanity, we avoid it. We're
Mhm,
always looking for the happy joy. I
mhm,
just want to be happy today. I just want to feel joy today. Well, that's okay, you can, but happiness
mhm.
and joy aren't supposed to be 24/7, 365 days of the year. We came
Yeah.
here to experience,
Mhm.
and unless we allow ourselves to experience pain, how can you know joy?
Oh, 100%, right? You've got to have one with the other in order to really, really understand it. And I know I've read somewhere, and I've seen it with my clients too, is that I think we're so afraid of feeling the pain, the emotional pain, right? The sadness, especially the sadness. The sadness is something that people are like, if I start crying, I'm never going to stop. Well, you will.
Yeah,
You will stop it, and you will fall asleep crying, or you will get to the point where you're exhausted. But something that a lot of people don't know, and if you've heard differently, let me know, but I understand, and I've seen it with my clients, that when you're feeling an emotion so intensely, if you allow that emotion to come out, the intensity only lasts 90 seconds.
yeah.
That's 1.5 minutes, and anybody can ride that out. If you
Oh,
can ride
yeah,
out that 90 seconds, li just think how much lighter you're gonna feel when you have that. So you scream for 90 seconds, or you cry hard for 90 seconds. Your body releases that, and then it starts to ebb. And you may have to do this over and over and over again to get the emotions out, but that intensity only lasts 90 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely it
And
does.
then it starts to go. And so if you need someone to sit with you through that 90 seconds, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah,
That's what we do.
that's
But if you're okay doing it on your own, set a timer for 2 minutes. And if you hit the 2 minutes and you're still feeling it, you probably won't be. After the 90 seconds, it's going to start going. But I think people are so afraid to actually feel it because they're afraid it's not going to stop.
exactly. They're afraid it's not going to stop. They're afraid that they're going to break down, particularly if they have other family members. I can't
Hmm.
afford to feel this. I can't afford to break down.
Hmm.
And one of the things
Hmm.
that I say to my clients too is you can't afford not to, because it's
100%.
costing you something.
Hmm.
All the time
Yeah.
you don't allow an emotion to come to the surface, to feel it, to
Hmm.
experience it, and you stuff it down, it is costing you
Hmm.
something. So
Hmm.
if you need to hit that breakthrough point, and one of the things I say to my clients too, and they say, I just had a breakdown. No, you did not. You had a breakthrough.
Hmm.
There's a big difference between a breakdown and a breakthrough.
Hmm.
Breakdowns is something that you tear down from the top to the bottom, you tear your house down. They're breakdowns. Your car breaks down,
Hmm.
but you don't break down, you break through. And if
Hmm.
you have that point where you don't think you can get up in the morning, you know what? That's okay, because you will. You're still in recovery mode. You're still in a process of healing and allowing your central nervous system to rebalance. You are giving yourself what you need to be able to process through what it is you need to process through.
Hmm. Hmm. And for some people, just knowing that they've only got they only need to do the 90 seconds or just, a little bit more makes it safer almost.
It
And they're
does
like,
make it
oh,
safer. And
yeah.
there's tools, like you say, Margaret, there's tools for that. So we're talking
Hmm.
about tools to be able to break through
Hmm.
and to rebalance. And there is no shoulds in any of this.
No.
But these are just tools that, if you haven't tried, may give you an opportunity to go, okay, I'm going to try that. And today
Hmm.
that might be the one thing that gives me a step up to the next level. That thing that, makes me poke my head out of the door today and go, you know what, I'm listening to the birds sing. Or
Hmm.
just gives you that breath of life that you've been holding your breath so long for.
Hmm. And like you said, like if you're not expressing your emotions, you're hurting yourself, right? It's only hurting yourself. Like, how else is that impacting you? How are you showing up as a wife, as a mom, as a friend, as a sister, as as a a worker? Like, how are you showing up in your life? Are you fully present? Are you actually enjoying? Are you able to be there? Or are you too worried about keeping everything down in case it
Mm-hmm.
comes up while you're being a mom and you're being a partner and you're being at work? Like, if you can deal with these emotions and allow them to be released, they have less control over you,
Yeah.
and they have a less chance of popping out unexpectedly, because they'll come out if you don't deal with them and if you don't focus on allowing them to be released. They're going to surface and come out whether you want them to or not, and most likely at the most inopportune
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can almost hear somebody in listening to this going, that's all right for you to say, but I've got to go to work. I'm a manager of an office. I
time.
only get 3 days or 5 days grieving time
Mhm.
at work. And yes, we do. But that's
Mhm.
also becomes maybe an opportunity for you to be able to say, actually, I need a little bit longer. Uh,
Mhm.
and ask if you've got other friends or family members that can step up to support. Ask for support. And this is a
Mhm.
key thing, because I hear this over and over and over and over again from people that I coach. I do everything for everybody. And when I need something, nobody's there for me. And part of the process of that is because we don't allow it. We don't allow someone to see us in pain. We don't
Mhm.
allow someone to see us cry. We don't allow someone to see us at what seemingly is our lowest point and help
Mhm.
cook a meal or do the laundry or pick the kids up or, go grocery shopping or say, I've got you back for one more week while you take the time you need to heal.
Hmm. And I think a lot of us don't ask for the help because we feel guilty.
Yeah,
There's a
I
huge guilt factor that comes up. It's like, I should be able, I should
should.
be able to do all these things. Well, when you're experiencing a lot of grief and a lot of deep emotion, you can't do some of these things. And it's okay to ask for help. But you're right. We are conditioned to not ask for help, and because we don't want to be vulnerable. And our society is always very big at making sure that all the vulnerable emotions are something that we hide away and we don't bring out in public and we don't
Mhm.
talk about in public because they are a threat.
Yeah,
If you actually get into the physical mechanic of grief and your reptilian brain, when you experience grief, actually goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode.
yeah,
And if you're around someone who's grieving, you do too. Your
yes,
brain perceives their grief as a threat. And so your brain goes into survival mode. You're not even aware of it. And that's why you say silly things like, oh, be brave, be strong. You'll get through it because you're trying to reassure yourself that what's going to happen. And then their grief is no longer a threat to you.
hmm,
And so through that sort of conditioning of when people tell you you have to be brave and be strong, why am I going to turn around and ask for help if I'm supposed to be brave and strong? Being brave and strong means that I pick the kids up from school and I do my grocery shopping and I clean my house and I get out of bed every day. That's what being brave and strong might mean to that person.
yeah,
Instead of saying, you know what, I am not being brave and strong right now. I need help.
yeah.
And that is a really, I hate to add the word, but that's a really brave thing to do, at least in our society, to
It's a
ask for
very
help.
powerful thing to do.
It's
Yeah.
a very powerful thing to do, and it's a very empowering thing for you to do.
Hmm.
And it puts you, if you can ask for help, people will help you.
They
You'd be
will. And sometimes
surprised.
it's very surprising who turns up when you least
Hmm.
expect it. Because
Hmm.
we never want to, it's that cultural thing of you being weak.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to be seen to be weak.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't cry in front of somebody. I don't express what I'm feeling because if they do, then I'm weak. And we avoid vulnerability at every single cost and every single corner that we can
Hmm.
to try and protect ourselves. But like you said, in the end, it's a pressure cooker. And
Hmm.
it can be something as simple as dropping your mum's favorite cup on the floor that you've kept forever and it smashes. That's the one thing that then triggers everything to come to the
Yeah.
surface and break through.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's usually something pretty small.
Yeah.
That's that
So,
tipping point.
yeah. And those tipping points come and they always come when we least expect it from our busy lives, but they
Hmm.
come from a point when the body needs it because the body's sent enough signals and now alarm bells are ringing.
Yep. And we just have to pay attention. And our bodies will keep knocking us over until we pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So to support anybody that's going through a grieving process or
Hmm.
um, has maybe recently had long-term grief that they've never recognized or dealt with, or recognized like I did a number of years ago when I was told I had post-traumatic stress syndrome, and I laughed my head off because I'd always considered that to be a firefighter or a first responder. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, I don't. But yes,
Yeah.
I did. And it's like certain things that the body does, and you still recognize that.
Hmm.
So I know I have some tools that I share. What tools would you suggest, Margaret, besides coaching, besides somebody being able to express what they're actually feeling in a safe space? Because we all
Hmm.
need that safe, sacred space to be able to share where you know you're not judged, where you know you can sit and cry
Right.
for an hour if you want to.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
can book a session with a coaching support, and the minute you walk in, cry, and the minute you leave, you're wiping your eyes, and there was never a word spoken, but that's exactly what you need.
Hmm.
Are
Hmm.
there any other tools that for someone at home that is going through something right now that you can perhaps suggest?
Um, I often suggest journaling.
Yeah.
Just take some time, write it out, even if it's just something you wanna get rid of, and if you don't ever wanna read it again, burn it. But if you journaling is an amazing tool just to get your thoughts and feelings out. You'll be amazed at how much lighter you'll feel. And your journal, just free write. Don't censor, let your right brain take over and just write whatever's comes to mind. Even if you're struggling writing, start writing your grocery list, and you will be surprised at when you finish that, where your brain and then your brain just starts opening up. I often talk to people about what is one thing you can do every day for yourself.
Hmm.
Self-care, right? What is that one thing? Is it taking your coffee on the back porch and enjoying the sound of birds? Is it going for a walk? Is it having a bath? Is it treating yourself to a massage? Is it just putting on something nice that feels good? Like, what is it that makes you feel better and helps to fill up your cup? Try and do something like that every single day. Um, the other thing is go out and be with people that you like to be with, right? If your best friend is the person you feel most connected to, spend some time with them too, so that you're not always alone. Make Try and make an effort to get out and be with people. It doesn't have to be in a big crowded restaurant. It could just be go grab a coffee and go for a walk with your girlfriend or whatever. Um, but try and make those connections as well,
Hmm.
because we are a social people, and that just being with somebody is a supportive thing to do. And one of the other things that I do suggest to my clients when they're not in session and they do want something to do, and this was suggested to me by a colleague. It's called Room to Grieve. Did I mention that before?
No.
You Okay? It's if you're really feeling like you need to express some emotion, but you're by yourself and you don't have a session coming up, and you're like, I need to just get this out. I'm really angry. I'm really sad, but you're afraid that it's going to go on forever. Find yourself a small space, a closet, a bathroom, somewhere where you can close the doors and the windows. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just let yourself cry. Because what that does is, you've only got 5 minutes. So you're
Hmm.
not going to be overwhelmed with, if I start, it's not going to stop. So you've got your 5 minute timer, you close everything, 5 minutes, you let it out. And when the timer goes off, you open the doors and the windows and you just release that emotion that you've just expelled. Take a deep breath, wipe your face, and off with you go with your day. What that does is it helps to release some of that emotion, and you will feel lighter. You might need to go back in an hour and do it again,
Yeah.
but it gives you the privacy to express your emotions if you're worried about people seeing you and you just don't want to cry with other people. Or angry, right? You're really angry. Go into a closet, scream into a pillow, whatever it is that you need to do to express it. If you have the opportunity to do that. If you're at work, you know, find a bathroom way at the end of a hall somewhere where there isn't a lot of people, or go for a walk. Just get yourself out and about. But the tools, there is other tools out there, right? Like, there's as a healer as a healer, there's so many different things that you could do. I have some of my clients that carry crystals with them because the crystals have a healing property to them.
Hmm.
Others wear they wear the beads. Some of them burn incense. Sometimes it's just the smell that makes you feel happy. Again, that's part of the self-care, but anything that you can do for yourself that makes you feel a little bit better, releases some of the tension and the stress of carrying the emotion, do that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of
And what
the
about you?
Oh,
What
so
about you?
I was going to kind of go in that route and then a different one
Mhm,
too. So certainly if you are processing grief from losing a loved one, from losing a pet, from losing somebody that you have been really close to, geranium oil is very, very powerful. Now, geranium oil is the oil of a broken heart. So anytime that you feel that you have that broken heart, you have that level of grief where you just feel the physical pain in your heart from that, geranium oil is one that you can diffuse, and it's one that
mhm,
you can just put on your hand and rub and inhale. Now, a lot of people don't like geranium. It's a very flowery oil. But I know from experience of many years using essential oils that the one that you dislike the most is the one that you want. So
mm,
the oils that I do, they also have one for grief and forgiveness, because part of the process of moving through grief is that level of forgiveness, that level of understanding, that level of acceptance is also part of that process. Now, that's not just when somebody passes, that's sometimes perhaps when you didn't get that promotion, when you had your heart set on a particular home and it was going to be your forever home and it never happened. And there's that twinge of grief and, oh, nothing's ever good's going to happen for me. Everything, doesn't turn out for me. It's also recognizing and understanding the level and the power of the words that go through your own mind and your own process on a daily basis. The more we tell ourselves, I'm never going to get through this, the body will respond to your thoughts. So if you recognize when you have those kind of thoughts going through your mind that might be, I'm never going to get through this, I'm always going to feel this pain, how dare this person leave, or how dare I not get this house, or I never get any luck, or I had this job set for me and it was going to be the best job so I could get myself out of debt and I could really support my family and it didn't come through. Listen to the words that go through your own mind, because our energy follows our thoughts. And I know when you're grieving, it can be very, very difficult to become mindful of the thoughts that you are processing. But at some point, as you move through that grief and you become more conscious of, you've moved through the pain and anger, you've moved through the shock, you've moved through the bargaining stage. Oh, if I do this, I'm going to get that. If I do that, I'm going to do this. When you start to recognize how you're actually speaking to yourself and what you are actually validating in your own physical body, is very, very, very powerful for moving forward from any level of grief. The other thing that I think I shared this with you at one point, Margaret, is creating yourself a treasure box. If somebody's passed away, and create a memory treasure box, create something that you don't just have a picture on the wall, or you don't just have something that gets stuffed in a cupboard somewhere. Now, if you get a lot of things gifted to you from somebody that passed, or something that you wanted to take yourself and you don't have the room for it, take things that are extremely meaningful to you. And the next level to that, if there's things that you can't take a picture of them and make yourself a collage, put them in a memory folder, make yourself a memory stick for your computer that every now and again, when you plug it in, it's going to bring, yes, it's going to bring up loss. Yes, it's going to bring up tears, but it's also going to bring the powerful memory of how much love there was between you and the person that has passed over. If it's a home that you're looking for because you want this ideal home, be mindful of your thoughts, because your actions and your emotions follow your thoughts. And these are very, very powerful tools. So besides being aware of that, be aware of your thoughts, be aware of a theme that is going on in your life. If things keep showing up and showing up and showing up, perhaps you're being shown a new direction. Create positive things in your life. So if somebody always bought you flowers, make sure you still buy the flowers. If you I don't know, creating poetry, artwork, anything that's going to help you process. The other thing that I use with my clients is I use a lot of color therapy, and color is very, very, very powerful. So you can associate a color and emotion. If you are feeling anger when you wake up in the morning, but you want the opposite feeling of that, which is joy, associate the color with anger. What color would that be? So I'm going to choose red for now. Okay. So red would be my color for anger, flame color box red. And if I want that feeling of joy, joy for me might be pink. So when you go for the closet, if you're pulling out a red sweater and you recognize I'm angry today and you're wearing a red sweater, the color association resonates through your body. If you want to move away from that, choose pink. If pink's your color for joy or peace or calm. The body recognizes it. Your cellular body recognizes it. And when you color associate your emotions to color, it gives you a very, very powerful tool to be able to move through stages that you're feeling, whether it's moving through that stage of grief because you've lost somebody, or whether you're moving through the stage of grief because you didn't get the job, or because you lost your home, or because of something else. Just be mindful that you have tools at your disposal. And sometimes it isn't until somebody says, have you tried this? Or maybe give this a go. Or the other thing is go on YouTube, and there are frequencies called solfeggio holy harmonics. Now, solfeggio frequencies work on multiple layers of grief and emotion and shifting us through that on a cellular level. Play it in the background all day long and just notice what you notice. Because sometimes when you put tools in place for yourself and you move forward and you continue to step forward, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, and all of a sudden you're looking back in your rearview mirror and you're going, oh my God, I've come a long way. But it's by putting those tools in place for yourself that you empower yourself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I didn't know about the sound frequency. That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
Holy Harmonics. It's one that I recommend a lot. And
I'm gonna
it
write
is,
that down.
so it's by Jonathan Goldman. You will
Mhm.
find it on YouTube, and it sounds like an orchestra.
Mm.
It is all of the solfeggio frequencies played, that it just sounds like an orchestra. And you play that in the background. You can play it on your headphones before you go to bed at night. One of the other tools that I recommend for people too, if you have monkey mind before you go to bed at night, you can either visualize this, you can visualize yourself writing each piece of on a piece of paper, each to-do thing, and placing it in the drawer beside you, and then visually close the drawer. Or you can write it on paper and throw it in the garbage can, and then play the holy harmonics, because the holy harmonics are incredibly powerful for supporting us and moving us forward. There are frequencies also that you can find on YouTube for helping process grief. And they are very powerful, because our cells, our body all vibrates at a frequency. And when it's played in a true pure frequency, the body knows exactly what to do with it. So you just recognize that you're doing for you what you need to do to be able to move forward, to be able to show up for yourself in a different way, and not forget the person or not forget the experience, but know that you have gained tools that are very powerful for you moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I really like that.
So this was
Yep.
good, Margaret. I like
Mm-hmm.
to say sometimes these conversations can be a little harder, right? When we talk about subjects that people don't necessarily want to talk about, particularly in our society. Other societies celebrate,
Yeah.
the passing, and they celebrate the life, and there's joy, and there's, they dance and they sing, and we've never been taught that. We've never been
No.
taught how to do that. It's hence the color black,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very dense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these tools are going to support and help people move forward. And you can always reach out to Margaret or myself if you are looking for coaching, so that we can help you with more tools that we have in our toolbox, because we both have significantly large toolboxes that we've got over the years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're here to be able to support in any way. Or if you have a question, please leave a question below this podcast. Margaret, is there anything you want to share before we close for this morning?
I think the only thing I would add is, as you move through grief, just honor yourself and your needs and what you need to move through, and understand that it's your own unique journey, and you know how to get through it. You just have to let yourself get through it, and
Yeah,
allow the process to unfold without a set timeline, without set expectations. Just allow, and you'll get through.
absolutely.
Move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I agree with that. So before we leave, I just wanted to apologize because Margaret and I tried
Yes.
desperately to get on last Wednesday to do a live, and Facebook have changed their algorithms. They've changed something, and it was very difficult, and we couldn't get on a live. So we are putting out to the universe that this Wednesday we will be doing a live. So if you have any questions, if you're experiencing something in your life, if you're going through that level of grief, whether it be because somebody has passed in your life, or you're grieving the loss of a job, or changing direction, or whatever that might be, you can jump on, and we will do our best to answer anything that we can answer for you at that moment in time. And we'll be back again in 2 weeks.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. If you have any subjects, anything that you feel is important to you, that you would like a little bit more information, and it's not that Margaret and I know everything. We absolutely don't.
No.
We're all teachers and students at any one time, but we can share what we've learned, and through our training and through our own life experience, that has brought us to where we are right now. So, and perhaps somebody joining into the live might have their experience that might be a lighthouse to somebody else. So thank you again, Margaret, for joining me. It's always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday, and the technological gods are going to be good to us so that we can actually
yes, they are.
live.
Yes, they are.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks so much, Karen. It's been wonderful.
It's my pleasure. And for everybody watching this podcast, please share it. Share as far and as wide as you can. Share it to a friend. Ask a friend to share it on their Facebook page. I will be uploading this on YouTube also. So if you have a friend that really needs to listen to this and isn't connected to Facebook, you will find it on Rebels Compass YouTube channel. And Margaret has her channels also in Instagram and what's the other one?
LinkedIn, Facebook,
LinkedIn.
and Instagram.
Yeah. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you will find these podcasts there so that you can share them with anybody that you may feel needs to hear what we are sharing today. Have an amazing day. Be kind to yourself, and try some of the tools that might move you through into a brand new space from where you are right now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.